Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. This is the Kennedale City Council agenda. This is our regular meeting, November 19th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. City Council Chambers, 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas, 76060. And before we get started, we're going to not take action, not discuss item 5 on the items for individual consideration. We're going to scratch that tonight, discussion of a potential flood study. So with that being said, Madam Secretary, may I get a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem Michaels,
Here.
Vice 1 Glover,
Present.
Place 2 Kobeck,
Present.
Place 4 Gary,
Present.
Place 5 Navarez.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. At this time, we're now going to do our invocation and pledges of allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flags. I'm going to ask Councilman Navarez to lead us in our invocation, Mayor Pro Tem Michaels to lead us in our pledges. Please stand. All right, thank you, everybody. At this time, we're going to move to our public comment section. And the Kennedale City Council welcomes comments from the public. Those wishing to speak must sign in prior to the start of the meeting. Speakers may speak on any topic, whether on the agenda or not. The Kennedale City Council cannot act upon, discuss issues raised, or make any decisions at this time. Speakers under citizens' comments shall observe a 3-minute time limit. Inquiries regarding matters not listed on this agenda may be referred to staff for research and/or possible future action by the board. Madam Secretary.
Ms. Tracy Hardy,
All that time and no one heard me? Okay, I'll start over. My name is Tracy Hardy, and I live in Kennedale here. I live on Fern Court. One of my neighbors is a senior citizen. She's like in her 80s. She couldn't come out, and she had questions on the taxes. She had gotten information that there was a tax freeze that was passed sometime last year, but when she got her appraisal paperwork, it wasn't on there. So she had questions, wanted to see if anybody could get any paperwork, any details, cover that, give her some information. So if that'll be covered tonight.
Yes, I will. We'll have a discussion here shortly.
Will you have anything I can possibly take back to her?
I'll see if we can get you the ordinance. Right now, that will be the best.
Thank you.
Christina Husfield,
Hi, good evening. Christina Husfeld, 1411 Derby Drive. I'm also here to address the senior tax freeze. Just looking for clarification and open government to figure out what happened to it. I know there's a lot of talk about what's going on, but the bottom line is we need to protect our seniors. We need to get this tax freeze passed and fixed. I've spoken to multiple council members who played a part in approving this ordinance, and the majority have stated that the intent was for the actual tax break to be given during the year of '24. I know that the ordinance might not be very clear, so hopefully there can get some clarification on that. If that is the intent and the seniors are still going to get taxed, I feel that the city needs to cut checks for those seniors after the fact, after the process goes through. The city should not have ever planned for that to be in their budget if that was the intent. So the city needs to give back to the seniors regarding that tax freeze and keep their promise that the city council intended to our seniors. Thank you.
Lori Sanders.
My name is Laurie Sanders. I live at 208 West 5th Street here in Kennedale. I am a senior citizen. In June, I began to ask about the tax freeze because I wanted to make sure I had everything filled out I needed to fill out. I talked to Jeff. I talked to Brad. I talked to Kenneth. I talked to Thelma. And all said, yes, that was true. It was going to be a tax freeze, but I wouldn't need to do anything. Just make sure I had my homestead exemption, which I've had for several years. So I quit worrying about it. Well, now I see all this stuff on Facebook, and heaven knows I am on a super duper fixed income. I could use a tax freeze, but to sit there and say and accuse our city manager of it being his fault is ridiculous. Because I don't know what happened, but I do know this. I've known Daryl Hull since he was knee-high to a duck, and he has worked here at the city for over 25 years, and someone does not work for a city government and for city police department for that long by not following the rules. So whatever happened, it already happened. It's over and done with. It's going to be fixed, and I know Daryl did not have anything to do with it not getting brought about. I don't know what happened, that's not my concern, but I have full confidence that you're gonna fix it. So that's what I wanted to say.
Sarah Johnson.
I'm going to try to talk fast because I got 3 topics, okay? First is we're giving the seniors their Thanksgiving meals on Saturday, starting at 10:30. I still need a bunch of turkeys, people. I need 70 turkeys and I need 65 turkey breasts. Some of you pledged, if you haven't pledged, I need you to pledge. My number is 817-333-4178, okay? And a second thing was I got a letter from Ken Paxton because I had asked for some open information that has transpired on one of the city council members' Facebook defaming me, okay? It was brought to my attention. I have yet to get the full information. I've only got tags and pieces, and Mr. Kingston already wrote the city and told them to give me the information. I want it by Friday. Third of all, and I have had a stroke, so please bear with me. Do not gavel me, okay? The third one was about Daryl. I've known Daryl since my kids were little, because Daryl was a police officer. I know for a fact Daryl loves the seniors. He's helped on different things with the senior citizens. He's done things at the senior center for the seniors. It'd be really ridiculous for him to try to sabotage the tax freeze. He's worked diligent here, and I'm telling you now, I got a call from James Conner just a couple of days ago, trying to blame Daryl, saying that he was going to request that Daryl resign or get fired, over this one little incident. And this is all political, so because he's going to run against Jeff. He admitted he's running against Jeff, and he was going to use it in his campaign. And that is the God's truth. I am tired of the politics in this town, and it needs to stop. People defaming me because I stand up for what I believe is true. 3 people in this council know I am an honest person, and I do not lie. My dad's name, Bishop, means something in this town because he was an honest man. He was on city council, and he helped. And Mo, whatever you needed done, he would help people. Not because he was on city council, but that's because he was a good neighbor. So we still need donations by Saturday, okay? And I live at 221 Village Street, Kennedale, Texas. I am a long life member of this community for 63 years. And I know we've had some bad characters in the last few elections. It's ridiculous, the politics that you people have brought into. We never used to campaign like that at all. You run on your morals. You don't run on garbage. Thank you.
John Havali. Mr. Havali, did you want to talk during public comment or on the public hearing? Okay.
Johnny Valley, 418 Cocoa Valley Drive, Kennedale, Texas, 76060, Canada. All right, couple of things. Number one, the persons who are trying to take away the freeze for residential homestead, they're going to get old too. And if I'm around then, I'll make sure they don't get it. And the ones who support that, every one of you is going to get old. Everybody. So those people who are going on that path need to realize, hey, one day I'll be in my shoes. I understand all this as a senior citizen. Point 2, so we need that resolved and freeze it and don't take it away. All right, the other one is our neighborhood, etc. We'll be talking about that more on A, B, whatever that is, B. But there's already some shootings down there. My wife heard that 5 shots being fired. Dang. Not to say violence is not everywhere. That doesn't make sense because violence is everywhere. Shooting is everywhere. And I don't know what to say. Is it types of people that exist today or what? But that is some serious stuff. And my wife was I was at the Kroger store and she heard the 5 shots, boom, boom, boom. But how is that going to be taken care of? I have no clue. I don't think anybody else here has. Unless Elon Musk, the genius, will come up with a clue. Hey, we can stop this before it happens. Done. Okay. The other point is garbage. I talked to the mayor about this. The issue on the garbage is they have strange rules. One rule that says, it has to be 4 feet long. So I said, well, come and measure the branches. And if it's longer, they won't pick it up. I talked to the mayor about it. The regulations that the city has come up with, maybe ancient, 50 years old, needs to be updated. As long as we put it in a pile, because sometimes one of the truck drivers says, I'm not going to pick it up. The other fellow says, just tie it up and give it and I'll pick it up. What is this conflict going back and forth? So take away the unnecessary calls. I contacted the mayor. I contacted a number of you here. Wasted about 2 days, 4 hours for this, not even rocket science, but garbage science. So that needs to be reviewed. Why is this measurements of something? Every time you call the person says, you got to have it measured. I said, come and measure my 4 feet. Am I 4 feet and 0.2 inches or 4 feet and 5 inches? So you won't pick it up. So that issue needs to be resolved. So I would strongly recommend, please look at that. If you need my help, I'll come join this issue. Go ahead, sir. Oh, I have 2 seconds and I'm done.
Lori Boyd.
Good evening. My name is Lori Boyd. I reside at 321 West 3rd Street in Kennedale. I've been reading on social media about issues in the city, And I'm glad that it's come out because I thought I was the only one. And I was trying to be silent most of the time. There are issues about the transparency coming up, and which the last 3 persons ran on their campaign. So this has been happening, and it's not like you're not aware of it because Councilman Navarez brought it up at one of the first meetings. So I hope we can start letting the people know some things that's going on, and there's more involvement as far as some of the council people. Rumor of getting rid of City Manager Darrell Hall, if I can do this without crying. It started and is apparent since the campaign. However, myself and others know the hard work and dedication he has for this town. He's been serving Kennedale for years, and I pray that all of us will not turn our back on him now. Thank you.
Chad Wandell.
Good evening. I'm Chad Wandell at 614 Reeves Lane here in Kennedale, Texas. I'm here tonight to talk about the absolute mess the city has allowed to be created in our neighborhood by the complete lack of oversight to the contractors doing the job. And what I'm talking about is the Safe Routes to School program. So for starters, when did council change the plans to move the sidewalks around and remove sidewalks from this plan? When I was on council, we approved the plans, and what we've got built today has zero resemblance to what was presented to public hearings and voted on. Let me ask you this. A project called Safe Routes to Schools should connect how many of our 3 schools in my neighborhood? You'd think 3, right? Do you know how many schools we got connected? 0. 0 schools. Good job with $1.4 million. The original plans for this project had sidewalks connecting to Sublet down Hillside to the fire station, then wrapping around the station. This limited school crossings to 1. What we got built was no sidewalks down Hillside. 4 crossings, 2 of them in a blind corner, and 2 of them to cross streets you've already crossed once. If this doesn't seem like a disaster, then let me ask you this. How many children were hit by cars before this project? 0. Now we've had 1 child hit by a car crossing these dangerous intersections, which, by the way, are only dangerous because of these changes. So the Safe Routes to Schools program has already a worse safety record than what was here to start with. These islands that got built, they create lanes on our residential streets that are below minimum standards set forth by the UDC and design standards. Why did we allow this? Who's running the show here? On Reeves Lane, all of the owners that had the sidewalks moved to their side of the yards are now victim of eminent domain. The city built the sidewalks inside the utility easement on our properties because there was not enough room in the right-of-way to contain the sidewalk. This is why the original designs for this project had the sidewalks on the other side of the street. I can speak for myself and say I was never approached to be compensated for the land that was just stolen. There are a number of mispoured driveways. Mine was almost one of them. The incompetence from the engineering firm shows this was completely a cookie-cutter deal. No site visits, no things to look at significant features, and they did 0 survey work. The only consistent thing about this project is how inconsistent it has been. Even today, they laid sod on our street, but when I got home from my doctor's appointment, the sod on my property had been removed. What? But ladies and gentlemen, the real problem here is that a large number of citizens in our neighborhood have sent numerous emails, phone calls, and messages to city council. And out of all of that, only 2 of you have even acknowledged us. 2. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kenneth. You're supposed to represent us. Regardless of whether we support you or not, you are still my representative. And to not return a phone call or even give us a "we're looking into it" message, that's absolute disrespect to the citizens of this town, and frankly, a violation of your oath of office.
Joe Palmer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Joe Palmer, I'm here on behalf of the Kennedale Alliance of Business Owners. It's our understanding that tonight the council will be discussing a continued item on whether to reinstate or cancel an ordinance that requires all the businesses in Kennedale to have a business license. It's our further understanding that staff had recommended that the ordinance be killed. This license requirement has not been enforced, so should the council decide to start enforcing it, all the businesses in Kennedale would receive a letter asking or demanding them to come in and apply for a license. This doesn't seem sensible since the businesses were already given a certificate of occupancy, and we can and should assume operating legally and have had their inspections as required. No business wants to get a letter from the city asking them to come in and apply for a new license. Kennedale has done enough in the past to support a reputation as a business-unfriendly city. The last thing we need is for 400 businesses to be groaning and complaining and telling others, including realtors and other business owners in the surrounding metroplex, that Kennedale is doing this to us. Please vote to kill this ordinance and do business just like you have been for the last number of years, requiring only COs. The business community doesn't think that it sends a business-friendly message to new or existing businesses and adds no value to the city, who already has all the COs. It just adds work for staff and makes businesses mad, antagonizes them. And we already have 2 examples tonight as to why the city should be focusing on the ineptness at the city level, at the execution from city staff. We've got the senior tax freeze, what's going on with that, and also the safe paths to school. These are what you should be focusing the microscope on, not on the people who live and trying to raise a family and work in this city. So let's get our priorities straight. Make the city work right, fix a pothole, dig up a pipe, fix a pipe, and then take a look at the people more closely, look at the businesses. One important point needs to be made, that revenue has to be made up on the senior tax freeze. And the business community can shore that up and make up the difference in that if we just get our proverbial boot off of the throat of the businesses. The CO process is stringent, it's tough to deal with, it's complicated. Let's free up, let's give Kennedale a reputation for being pro-business. And further, I believe that this comes from one person on council. I don't believe that the business license came from this groundswell from the community. A bunch of people called you and said, we want you to come enforce this on us, or we want to enforce this on ourselves. Councilman Navarez, at the previous council meeting, you said that you were the only one that you knew of that was reporting that you had a business. Let's just leave it at that. We'll give you a trophy or something. You can be the only one in something. But my point is that when something doesn't come from the community, when something comes from one person on council, that is not an example of representative government. That falls under the category of tyranny or dictatorship. And Kennedale's a little city. It is possible for you to listen to the people. You can listen to them tonight. You could have listened to them at the last meeting or the meeting before that. You can get a pretty good sense of what people are asking you to do. And it's not this. Thank you.
I have no others that have signed in.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you, everybody who commented this evening. Next, we're going to move into our presentations, and we've got an update to regulations and protective measures for lead in the City of Kennedale's drinking water system. I'm guessing Christian's going to take the lead on this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. This afternoon, we're going to have a short informational presentation from Freezer Nichols on the lead and copper rule. Basically, they're going to have a histogram where it is at, where we at, and where we should be going. We'll have Freezer Nichols.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I am Tanu Kulkarni from Freezer Nichols. I and Freezer Nichols worked closely with the Department of Public Works on this initiative. This is about the taking out lead out of the drinking water system under the lead and copper rule revision initiative by the federal government. This slide talks about the health risks that lead poses, from on individuals, essentially damaging the nervous system, learning disabilities. It may lead to shorter stature, impaired hearing, and impaired function of blood cells. And that's the reason why we want to take it out of the drinking water system. And so what are the sources of lead in our drinking water system? Essentially, it comes from the service lines or lead goosenecks or copper lines with having lead solder. So water pipes essentially can turn into a lead source in the drinking water. Corrosive water can cause lead to leach into the drinking water and then can be consumed by citizens. City of Kennedale has historically followed sampling procedures, water quality sampling and testing. They have collected representative sites from across the city. Samples were collected from or are being collected from residences at their kitchen faucet to ensure that the water quality is maintained as advised or as per the standards set by the federal and state agencies. And sites are selected based on highest risk of lead exposure, such as houses known for having lead plumbing internally. So quick history of lead use and regulations in the United States. In 1991, the federal government announced the original lead and copper rule. And in 2021, new rule, lead and copper rule revisions was introduced. And it had a compliance deadline of this October 2024. On 7th of October this year, the federal government introduced a new rule, lead and copper rule improvements on the top of lead and copper rule revisions. And it has got a compliance date of October 2027, which is 3 years from now. The City of Kennedale proudly reports that it's totally compliant with the lead and copper rule revisions, LCRR. So historically, the water quality in the city meets the state and federal standards. Historical lead and copper, LCR, lead and copper rule, LCR sampling protocol focused on lead exposure from premise plumbing. The new LCRI, which has got a compliance deadline in October 2027, focuses more on not just premise plumbing, but also the service line material. So what is a service line? A service line is a pipe that brings water from the water main in the street to your house. It connects water meter outside of your house and then runs up to the house. A service line has two parts, as you can see in the illustration above. A public side service line and a private portion of the service line, separated at the meter box. The public side is owned and maintained by the city. The private side is owned and maintained by the resident, the property owner. So identification of service line material was mandated as per the lead and copper rule revision, LCRR. The goal was to identify all service line materials. Identification was needed to be done on both the sides, the private as well as the public portion of the service line. And an inventory was to be created and submitted to the state before the compliance deadline, which was 16th of October 2024. The inventory needs to be annually updated as new service lines are added and or replaced. This inventory is publicly accessible on the city's website. The URL is mentioned on the screen below, at the bottom. And the city also has created an interactive web map for citizens to use and check their addresses to see what their service line material is. The city has verified about 3,100 service lines across the city as non-lead. About 293 needs verification. These are unverified as of now, which amounts to about 8.5% of the total service lines that the city has. So this is a distribution of, this table looks complicated, but it is not essentially. The city doesn't have any record of lead service line, so that's the good news. The city has not found any galvanized service line requiring replacement. That is a good news. The city has 91.5% of all of its service lines identified as non-lead. The city has about 8.5% service lines yet to be determined. So those are unknown. For the past many months, city has reviewed hundreds of historical records, engineering records, construction maps, and performed desktop analysis to identify as many service lines as they could. The city verified, developed, and submitted this service line inventory to the state. So let me talk about what needs to be replaced. If the city encounters or identifies any lead service line in the future, it has to be replaced. A service line which is made up of galvanized pipes that is or was in the past on the downstream of a lead service line is to be replaced. Let me clarify here. Like I said, we have not found any lead service line or galvanized requiring replacement service line so far in the system. So coordination on the customer side replacement. Should the city identify any galvanized requiring replacement or lead service line in the future, then the city will replace the city-owned portion of the service line, and it will coordinate with the customer, inform them to replace their portion of the service line. So customers can also self-initiate service line replacement. We encourage them to inform the city if you choose to replace your lead or galvanized requiring replacement service line. The city will replace lead public side of the service line within 45 days of the replacement of the customer-owned portion. The city issued annual notices, so citizens might have received unknown service line letters in this month. Additional outreach after 2027 October will include notices to maintain, to ensure that notices of maintenance activities that may temporarily increase the risk of lead exposure, such as replacing a meter or replacing a service line. All customers will be notified if triggered by elevated lead results. On another note, if the property is chosen as a sampling site, bottles, instructions will be provided, results will be provided by the city, and follow-up materials are provided if lead is detected above allowable levels. All elementary schools and licensed childcare facilities in the city will be sampled by 2033. Schools and childcare facilities built after January 1st, 2014 are exempt due to change in the definition of lead-free for brass fixtures in drinking water fountains. A list of all the schools and registered facilities is available in the registered facility database. If you are a school and or a certified childcare facility, you can verify if you are on the list. So the citizens can cooperate with the city during the sampling procedures, sampling activities, service line inspections. The city's aim is to verify all the remaining 293 service lines across the city. So we encourage citizens, we request citizens to cooperate with the city during such inspections and or service line replacement. The citizens can also help by being proactive, by reporting their private side service line materials to the city, reporting premise plumbing material, cleaning aerators and flushing before first use of water. And these are the best practices that we would encourage citizens to follow, and by spreading the word. Let the city know if you are interested in having your property used as a lead sampling site. Depending on what material your service line is made of, you may not be initially selected for the first monitoring period, but we always encourage citizens to to reach out if, because we believe that in the future we would need volunteers for lead sampling. So these are the tiers. Single-family, multifamily households with lead or galvanized service lines will be categorized as Tier 1 and 2. Commercial properties with lead or galvanized service lines will be categorized as Tier 3. Tier 4 would be properties with copper premise plumbing without lead or without galvanized requiring replacements that are still built before the federal lead ban 1988. That's it. Thank you so much.
Anybody got any questions? Just a note, based on that histogram, there were 2 dates that was very important to the city of Kennedale. One being October 15th, that we needed to send in our inventory matrix to the TCEQ. That was done, and that was showed on the slide. Another date was November 15th, that we had to send out those notices to the public that has the unknowns, which is that 293 that Tanu brought out there, and those were sent out before the deadline as well. Other dates that might be important is that 2027, and beyond that, we need to make sure that we have funding available, because on the lead and copper rule revision, it's you find it, you fix it. That's the rule. If we find lead when we're doing our inspection, we need to fix it. And we need to have that done before 2033. Yeah. So we have 13 years between now and 13 years from now to find them and fix them.
Christian, quick question. If residents want to be added as a sampling site, how should they go about requesting that?
Reach out to me.
Okay.
And Christian, on the slides, the one about the schools and the daycare centers, it had 2023 as far as we're going to have. That seems like a long ways out for me. Can we, is that adjustable to make that a lot sooner?
They could be encouraged. In fact, they are encouraged to do testing as of now.
Okay.
And I'm trying to work
They
with
will
the
have to, okay, I'm sorry.
Now, I'm trying to work with the TCEQ to get us the sampling bottles and to provide some training how to take samples.
Okay.
And we could get it to the school, and the school to do the sampling themselves.
So we as the city would go to the schools and get them to do that, right?
We'll ask.
We'll ask, yes. We'll ask them to, which
Yeah.
hopefully they'll do. Okay. It just 10 years, 9 years seem like a long time to get the
Well,
schools covered.
the federal government, the EPA understand that some cities like ours, be a stretch for cash. So they give that leeway that small cities, big cities still don't have the funding to, you find it, you fix it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Another thing that might be of interest to you all, the threshold for the lead when you sample is 15 parts per million. And to put that in perspective, that's what, 0.01 milligrams per liter. which is about, in perspective, 3/10 of a drop. So if we could just find 3/10 of a drop in your drinking water, then you're out of shape.
Just a comment. This is state mandated or federally mandated. and
Correct.
It's not funded. It would be funded through the city.
Yeah,
It's not
there-
funded by any other means.
Correct. And there's other means, we're trying, and I'll be working with Friesen Nichols, our consultant, to find funding for us. There's grants available, but it's, first come, first serve, most are required. So we'll try to get funding to help replace some of those lead service lines if we do find them.
Do we believe if we have any homesteads or businesses that may have lead?
At this time, no, because we've tested, let's say, based on our inventory, about 3,446. And after that, we had only 293 of unknowns, which could be lead, it could be galvanized, it may not be. But we have to go and field verify those.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Thank you, guys. Now we're going to move into our regular session, and we've got our reports and announcements. We'll start with updates from the city council, and I believe it is Councilman Glover's turn to kick us off.
Thank you, Mayor. Main update from me is my wife and I and family, we participated in the Kennedale Halloween handing out candy, had a great time, got to see a lot of people. Went through all of our candy. I think we cleaned out the Dollar General in the process as well as everybody else. So thank you all for coming out that night.
Councilmember Kobeck?
Likewise, the trunk or treat was a great event. I think I had a couple of people who mentioned that there were more families participating this year than they had seen in the past. So that was really, really encouraging and a lot of fun.
Mayor Pro Tem Michaels, sorry, got ahead of myself.
All right, well, it started out, I did attend the chamber luncheon in the Kennedale Historical Society lecture, and I find it was fascinating. So if you're into history, and it's not really Kennedale history, but it's Texas history, you might want to take a chance and visit one of these classes. Went to the Fall Festival at the Kennedale High School, and me, Councilman Navarez, and Councilwoman Kobeck attended the Salvation Army kickoff breakfast. So that's coming up December 14th. So hopefully we'll be out there, raise a lot of money and ringing a bell. Trunk or treat was a blast. We're getting bigger and bigger every year. In November, I attended a floodplain seminar at COG for the elected officials. Gained a lot of knowledge that in the future that we can use. Had a great time at the First Methodist Church historical marker dedication. And the next day we did the veteran service. And last week, me and Councilman Navarez and City Manager Hull attended the EDC conference. And we picked up a lot of good information to hopefully improve our EDC better. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Gary?
I don't have anything today.
Councilman Navarez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick shout out about the Halloween, and I agree with you, Thelma. There was a lot more families out. It was a beautiful night to be out. But I got a lot of reports on Kennedale News about what was going down in Pennsylvania, but it was just our police department just being out in force and making sure everybody's safe. So a big congratulations again, 2 years in a row, to Chief Holguin and his staff for just their presence out there was just noticed all night long. I also attended the Marine Birthday, but that's done by Judge Carr and hosted by Tarrant County. This year it was at the Meacham, the Aviation Historical Museum, which was really cool. And I joined other dignitaries from our area, including our commissioner, and I did manage to speak to our elections admin in Tarrant County post-election and got the goods on the inside, and Tarrant County did very well. It was very peaceful. I also joined the Veterans Day celebration, and Mr. Barry, good job on prolonging it enough to let our guests get there in time from all of our construction around our area. That was a good job. Also attended the EDC convention last week, and we learned a lot of cool stuff. There was a lot of money out there that I don't think anybody's tapped, and that's something that I hope to explore. And then as you can see, I'm looking very dapper tonight. It is No Shave November. And that is to recognize one of the #1 killers of American males, which is prostate cancer. A few facts about that. If 1 in 3 men, if you have one generation of somebody who has a history of prostate cancer, you have 1 in 3 chance of getting it. If you don't, you have a 1 in 6 chance. That is the same as breast cancer. Also, it's a leading cause of death in males in America, especially Hispanic males. So the only way to fight this is early detection. And for those of you who are one generation higher of you, the new age for that starts at 45. So I'm 44, I'll be 45 in April, so I'm looking forward to that next year for myself. And I just encourage everybody that next year, join me. This is my 2nd year doing it, and do a 30-day no shave November. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And I'll feel for you next year when you have to go through that. I'll be brief tonight, just in the sake of time. First, I do want to thank First United Methodist here in Kennedale and congratulate them on their Texas State Historical Marker. That was really awesome. Ms. Sanders, the ceremony was beautiful. Thank you for having me. And it was really a treat to hear Mike Gross speak. He's a longtime history teacher here in the Kennedale ISD, and he's just phenomenal. And he just brings it every time he speaks, and he's a walking encyclopedia. So thank you for having me. It was really nice. Additionally, in our Veterans Day ceremony, I do want to thank our city manager, Chief Holguin. It was a very reverent ceremony. It was very befitting of our nation's heroes, and it was really awesome to be a part of. And you guys did a fantastic job, and I got a lot of great compliments about it. So thank you guys. Additionally, I do want to congratulate the Kennedale Wildcats football team on their first round playoff win. They're moving on and advancing, win and survive. So finally, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, but just briefly to address the senior tax freeze. Several weeks ago, I think probably everybody in the city started hearing about this. And so, I've been speaking with our city manager and spoken with officials at TAD. I think we've tried to get the attorneys involved, but I want everybody to understand that, we are where we are, and we're working to resolve it. We're doing the best. And Mr. Hull, I want you to know you've got my full support, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, just a short update of where we're at. Currently, the ordinance is written where it takes effect in 2024, which is today. We're in 2024. So the tax bill that you received, that will be your frozen tax if you're disabled or 65 and over. So what you're seeing on your bill is actually what you're going to see next year when you go pay the 2024 tax. Hopefully that makes sense. So the ordinance does not read for 2023. That was not even the intent. The intent, if you want to go back and look at the June 2023 city council meeting, and if you want to go to hour 2 and 45 minutes, you can watch what that discussion was with that current council. And we do have 3 council members on the council now that was here in 2023. Even then, it was indicated and confirmed that the tax freeze takes place in 2024. So what you're reading and what we shared and what we have on our city website is the ordinance, and the ordinance is very clear, and it's written very clear when it's to be implemented. So with everything that's being said in reference to when we filed it, when we didn't file it, if we did or if we didn't, is minute. It starts in 2024, and it was filed with TAD. Same thing as codified with the city. Everything was done properly. Everything's correct, including the ordinance, including the council. And the council supports it even today. It is done exactly the way it should have. We have looked at the possibility, even as someone made the comment of doing a reimbursement. Unfortunately, we cannot do that on the legal side. So even if the intent was to be in 2023, we can't do that by law. So once again, the ordinance is reading to begin in 2024 and that's exactly what has happened. So just understand, there was an increase in your taxes countywide. It wasn't just Kennedale. So you're going to see an increase, but just understand it's not just Kennedale. It's all of Tarrant County. Your medical, it's the schooling, all the way around. So it's not just Kennedale. So the improvement or the increase you're seeing is just part of what City of Kennedale has actually implemented. So again, I just want to clarify, by the ordinance, it starts in 2024. So when you come in and you pay your taxes next year, you should see that same bill that you received today or in the last month.
If I could, Mayor, just to add one thing, it's not just the ordinance, City Manager, it's state law that governs. So 2024 would have been the earliest the council could have done it anyway under state law, and it's state law that governs in this instance. So the ordinance that was adopted by the council was the earliest the freeze could be adopted.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And thank you, Mr. City Attorney, for looking into that as well. I know I kind of volunteered you for it, but I appreciate it. All right, thank you. Moving next to our business licenses update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Great to be with you again here tonight. So we're pleased to provide you an update regarding the business licensing discussion that we've had here last couple months. So the good news, the business licensing module has been added to our MyGov software suite. So I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute, but we plan to undergo implementation here in January for that particular module. So here in a short few weeks, we'll have some training. We have to set up that particular module with the software developer, but that's been set. The business license module will allow customers to apply for and renew business licensing online. Another benefit of the module is that it can be used to facilitate annual registrations, annual renewals of other types of permits and licenses, for example, fire inspections. Right now, the software that we have, when you create a building permit, once you go through your final inspection, it basically archives it. This module is set up to have a reoccurring annual reminder to update that particular license. Although the requirement to obtain a business license will remain, the fee, one of the things I've been talking with the city manager about is that the fee will be removed upon the adoption of the new fee schedule. And so that's one of the things that we've discussed. How can we make it a little bit more business friendly in town? And so in coordination with the EDC, we want to work to encourage business license registrations as a promotional tool. And what I mean by that is, for example, we've discussed the idea of listing all our registered Kennedale businesses in town on a directory. And I believe the EDC's got some plans, or they've discussed a new website. To date, there really isn't a functional directory. And so we look forward to that particular opportunity as well. So with that, happy to answer any questions from council.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order. This is reports and announcements. Can we ask questions? Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. I guess I'll go. So Nathan, when we originally discussed this, it was to make it a little bit easier for them to do business. That has been the discussion since you and I started this last spring. Do you feel that this is the way to go? You and I talked about finding maybe old rules or old laws and cleaning up books, but you're talking about keeping it on the books and just not charging people, correct?
Sure.
And does that make that easier for businesses?
The module certainly does. It makes it easier on the business, on the staff, where they can just go and renew as needed, right? And so the problem that we have in town, particularly our department and the fire department, is that it's hard to determine an active business in town, right? Let alone a home-based business, because a lot of our businesses don't remove any of the signage from the tenant that was there before. I get so many calls, I know the city manager would agree, that from businesses wanting to open up in Kennedale, but we don't have any room for them, or there's not a space. And it's hard for us to identify that if there's not a for sale or for lease sign in the window. And so when we have a business that maybe didn't update their registration, we'll be able to update that particular list and maybe check in, hey, if they're still in business, great. Let's see how we can, what we can do to assist them in remaining in business. And so with that, we've discussed removing the fee. The fee was put in place with the fee schedule that was adopted in 2019. I'm pretty sure it's the same fee that was adopted before, and it's simply to cover the cost of that. We certainly have looked at removing the fee, right? And because now it's just easier to facilitate that process. And so we're excited about that opportunity also to be able to make it, you've spoke as well as it's almost a sense of pride in Kennedale to have that business license. I'm a registered business in Kennedale. And we want to encourage that. So that's kind of what we've thought up, and happy to take any more recommendations or input.
And so, and I know you're about to speak on this next, but the MyGov software, the app that we all can download here probably next year, is also an easier way. It makes it easier for businesses to do that as well.
That's correct.
So this is just basically a compromise between what you wanted and what we wanted, which was we wanted less red tape, but you wanted to see where our businesses were at all times in the city.
I think it's important for public safety, certainly. Yes, and I would agree with that.
Thank you for clarifying that misinformation.
I have a question. So I'm looking in here, and it says that the staff will work to encourage business license registrations as a promotional tool. So what, if anything, will happen if a business chooses to not register?
We'll just advise them of the requirement that there is to it. Unfortunately, the ordinance that's set in right now, that again can be amended, it does set a penalty for it. But again, like we've discussed, that's something that we can easily overcome. So if someone decides they don't want to register, it'll be brought to their attention during their annual fire inspection often, right? But if we don't have a registration, we'll work to encourage it. And I think the EDC and the chamber can work towards providing incentives to where that wouldn't even be an issue. If you get some promotion on the city website or EDC or something like that, I think it would compensate or provide us a reasonable compromise on that.
Further comments? All right, moving on to the MyGov software update.
Well, on November 1st this year, I've got a, Bobby Joe, I don't know if you can, I'm going to pull up the city or the internet. And so here on our city website, what we've done is we've added links all over. So if you go to the community development website, the building inspections website, there we have links that link directly to the system. But if you don't want to have to navigate all that, this icon that's been there forever now directs you straight to the MyGov site. So from this particular site, customers or contractors or businesses can create a collaborator account. And that allows you to access to send in building permits, apply for a contractor credential, report a code violation. You can even set a work order that goes directly to Public Works, access to a GIS map through that site, and also send any particular request that you would like. But within the permits themselves, all you got to do once you've created a collaborator account is select what kind of building permit you want to submit. All our land development, zoning applications, trade permits are all listed online. And so once you open that up, you just, instead of filling out a form, just type it away. As soon as you hit submit, it shows up on a staff member's dashboard to begin the review. Since that, our review time it's almost night and day. And so instead of it sitting on a desk in a manila folder on a stack, now it's showing up on people's dashboards, and we're able to get reviews Let me give you an example. Last October around this time, I was only able to track the plan reviews that I do, and that was about 5 plan reviews for construction plans, things of that nature. This last month in October, the city conducted over 90 plan reviews, and that's because you've got planning that's reviewing it, public works that's reviewing it, different departments, so we can actually track this data a lot better. And so through that site, again, if you needed to send in a request for whether it's a complaint, high grass and weeds, noise, rodents, anything like that, or let's say you have a street repair that you need to bring, I imagine this will probably get used quite often, right? But emergency repairs, routine maintenance, anything like that, you can simply fill out the request, type in the address. You don't have to give your name and number. You can remain anonymous. That's true for code enforcement as well. And then it shows up on the staff member's dashboard to get to work on that. So that's the update, the MyGov that we were able to put in place. Again, Public Works is involved. We've even got the library involved on that now. But I want to thank council for their stewardship and allowing us to improve our services here in town. That's the update I've got for you.
Thank you. Moving right along then to the Tyler Technologies software update.
Thank you. A few months back, we came to you with our hands out asking for you to approve a budget amendment, which you did, thankfully. We appreciate that. And just giving you an update on where we are with Tyler, there were 3 modules that, well, 4, 3.5, we'll call it, that affected us. The Tyler ERP Pro 10 Financial Management, we are complete with core financials. That's our general ledger and our reporting. And you probably noticed there's a new format for the monthly financials. That's from our new software. Invoice approvals and accounts payable and purchasing, we're able to use those now. What is in process is project accounting. That will allow us to tie expenses directly to a project through our software instead of having to journal entry those around. Fixed assets, we'll be able to keep track of our items through the software instead of through Microsoft Excel. And human resources management, it's partially online. We won't be able to use the full capabilities until March, April of next year. That'll be when we convert our payroll over. So surprise to anyone from ADP listening. Next point I want to talk about is the mobile app. So Nathan just came up and talked about being able to report code violations, being able to report street repairs, those type of things. The My Civic suite will connect straight to MyGov. So our citizens, once this becomes live, will be able to report those issues through our app. It's in the development phase. We're still sanding off a few corners on that. Getting our marketing plan in order. We're anticipating to go live the first week of December on the My Civic suite on the mobile app, and that'll be for iPhone and Android. Last bit of the conversion update, we do have Municipal Justice Suite. The conversion started on that this month. We're anticipating to go live on that on June 1st, and that aligns with the expiration date of our OpenGov LTS license. Have any questions about the Tyler Technologies update?
Guessing that's a no.
Okay.
While you're there, we can go ahead and move to item 3.
Okay, if you're ready. Moving on to the financial reports for the month, I did include another copy of September. This will be the last draft that we will show. The next version of September that'll hit will be after our audited financial statements are complete. Just for a point of reference, we do still have until the end of the month to get invoices and make payments toward FY24, and we still do need to capture some sales tax revenue. So that's why this is still in a draft form. Looking at October, I did mention a new format, but one thing I do wish to point out, the very last page of your packet for October does have our reserve percentage and the days of fund balance, so that's been a key metric that we've looked at. And when you consider our cash flow, really this first part of the fiscal year is where we're going to see that lowest reserve number because we're making a lot of our big expenditures right at the beginning. So I'm talking about our insurance, what we pay for appraisals. There's other really large expenses that we hit in September and October, and our revenue is also low for the fiscal year. Typically, our property tax, which is 50% of revenue, is a January input. So our reserve number right now, it's at 24%. I anticipate that's very close to the lowest it'll get all year, if not the lowest. Rather than me ramble, I'll just open up for questions.
So John, did this data come from the Tyler ERP?
Straight from it. The only thing I modified, excuse me, was the very last page. So rather, excuse me, rather than taking the 4 hours or so, plugging everything into Excel, this, along with the analysis, was maybe an hour. And that's counting creating this second page. So it's reducing the amount of time it takes to do these reports significantly.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right. And now we've got one more. That's right, EDC, sorry. Got ahead of myself.
One thing I'm really proud about, for the first time since 2019, the city was awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. So this is the gold standard for financial reporting, and this is related to our audited financial statements, so our previous ACFR. One thing just to highlight, this award from the press release includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. This was a collaborative effort. We had Kevin Kemp from Forvis come and present the audit. We also have Kelsey Blackshear and Tyler Hoffman on our team from Forvis Mazars. And then, of course, our department, Bridget Davenport, Felicia Diggs, and Debbie Scott all worked on that from our city. So just something to be proud of. We've had a gap. We're looking forward to making this the standard going forward.
Thanks, John. A great job.
Sir, thank you.
Very proud of it. It's taken us a little bit to get there, but we've achieved it.
Yes, sir.
And it takes a team to be able to do it, and we're very grateful for it.
Well, we have a great team in the finance department. Want to be
Absolutely.
proud of for sure.
Also want to, once again, I want to thank the council as a whole. One, giving us the opportunity to upgrade our technology here. As you can tell tonight, with the updates, it has dramatically improved just the efficiency level of where the city's been operating, and more importantly, what we're able to offer our citizens and how they can communicate better with us, and we can communicate better with them. But it's been a tremendous challenge, and this technology is helping us tremendously. I just want to say thank you again, and to the public.
Mr. City Manager, on behalf of our council, I do want to congratulate you guys for the achievement. I think that's really great. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'd like to give one more update, if you don't mind. Don't forget, November the 30th is our hometown Christmas. It's our 25th anniversary. It is going to be a really big night, and I really want to share. There's going to be a lot of traffic. We anticipate a very large crowd. So we have partnered with Kennedale Independent School District to utilize some of their parking areas. So if you're here, obviously if our town center is full, which we're anticipating very early, it starts at 2 p.m., you can utilize the Kennedale Junior High School parking. We will have shuttles that will help us transport back and forth. We'll also have it at Sonora Park. So we'll have transport going back and forth there as well, and it will be from 2 o'clock till it ends. So we will help you get back and forth in a very timely manner. Also, we'll be able to utilize the parking across the parkway at the Kennedale admin building. So we'll do the same thing. We'll be able to transport you back and forth over the parkway, so you don't have to worry about traffic or pedestrian issues. So we'll have transportation for anyone that's wanting to come and utilize the satellite locations to park. Also, I want to give you a heads up, if you have animals, things of that nature, we will have a fireworks display that will start roughly right at 6 o'clock thereafter. And it is a commercial grade fireworks, so it's going to be loud, and most likely you're going to hear it citywide. So everybody over at Alta Landing, Coker Valley area, you're going to be hearing it. It's not going to be that long. It's roughly about a 7-8 minute display, but it's going to be loud. So if your animals are tender to loud booms, you're going to hear it. So I just want to give some encouragement. You should have also received some mailers last week, and you should be receiving a mailer. If you haven't already got it, you'll get it next week. And it's reminders, obviously, of the hometown Christmas and the fireworks as a whole. And if you could, obviously, everybody here loves Facebook, so share it. The hometown Christmas, the fireworks, everything about it. It's a tool that we need to use, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for you guys planning to bring your family to our hometown Christmas. And I think you'll enjoy it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just as a reminder, the A&M Texas game kicks off at 6:30, so you're on the clock. It's 6:40 p.m. Let's take a 5 to 7 minute break and we'll reconvene. Thank you. All right, it is 6:48 PM. We're going to go ahead and reconvene. So at this time, we're going to move to our public hearing. And on the agenda is to conduct a public hearing on a planning and zoning case, number 24-10, a proposed zoning change request from multifamily district to planned development for approximately 10.27 acres for Block 1, Lot 2R1 of the Vaquero Coker Addition, located at 3100 Joplin Road, City of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas, known as Alta Landing. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comments at 6:49 PM.
Jonathan Shefra.
Try. Oh, I figured it out. Amazing. And I'm Jonathan Sheffron, 500 Steeple Chase Trail, Kennedale, Texas, and my family will be at the fireworks show. We're excited about that. So thanks for all you guys who putting all that together. I'm looking forward to that a lot. So yeah, I'm on the board of the HOA connected to the Alta Landing Apartments. And I just want to say, I don't think we should approve the zoning change. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, the biggest is that all the improvements that the neighbors want can be done under MF. So the expert that testified in July said that, yeah, we can do all these changes under MF. And it keeps coming back to the same cycle where we're kind of, we want to make these changes and we keep getting different reasons why the changes can't happen. It could be, well, we can't because the city won't give us a permit to move the dumpster, or we can't lower the lights because those are already agreed to, or all the different things keep going around and around. And the neighbors are just really tired of not having the improvements put in from a non-conforming property. It's been a non-conforming property that's been terribly non-conforming since it was built. I'm not even sure personally if it's legally non-conforming. That's the language being used. But I think whatever it is, it's non-conforming. And all the things the neighborhood wants have been all said are very reasonable things. There are privacy fence. There are things that are very reasonable all the way across. And we don't quite understand why they haven't been done like already. Like, can we just do them? It was only in July of this year that we heard for the first time that, oh, the reason why they're not being done is there's a financial barrier. But we didn't hear that in 2023 when they weren't being done. We didn't hear that January 2024 when they weren't being done. And so we're just not quite sure if you've got this huge $40 million, $38 million property, and you can make it conforming by doing all these improvements. That feels like a better way to go for us than just granting a PD on the hope that all these improvements happen, when the last time that happened with this certificate of occupancy, that didn't happen. They said, hey, we're gonna grant certificate of occupancy and all these improvements will happen, and then just none of them happened afterwards. So that's my heart in this, is we have a list of improvements that everyone has said is reasonable. I think we should keep MF, make all the improvements, and then if we want to have a conversation about PD, let's have a conversation about PD after the improvements have been completed.
Thank you, sir.
Tracy Hardy.
My name is Tracy Hardy, and I live at 1406 Fern Court. I am here today to share some of my concerns with Alta Landing Apartments in the zone changing request to PD. I am opposed to the change zoning from multifamily to PD for several reasons. One, they are non-conforming under multifamily, and they will be non-conforming under PD. There are a number of things wrong with the apartments that the city of Kennedale has allowed and made exceptions for that affects the neighbors and their renters, like the setback violations in Section 3, Table 3.3. The retaining wall in Section 10 1014F2B shall not exceed 5 feet in height and 10 feet in setback for the retaining wall. In my area, the setback is 3.5 feet from the property line, and the retaining wall height is over approximately 10 to 15 feet in height, not the 5 feet in Section 10. And in PD 9.2, qualifying conditions that apply to all PD. Number D, compatibility with adjacent units. It states that parking areas shall not be located near perimeter of the PD or so to negatively impact the resident use adjacent to the land. Our property lines and backyards join that parking lot, making it non-conforming under PD already, 9.2, number D. We already had a vehicle went over the retaining wall and through the fence into my neighbor's yard, making it unsafe situation for everyone involved. Thank God no one was injured, and yes, they did install a wire guard rail for that, but the parking lot itself is in violation of 9.2 of the PD. It could have been prevented if PD 9.2 number D had been followed along with the 5-foot retaining walls and the setbacks. Alta Landon stated they wanted the zone changing to PD to add things like more trees, carports, and other things. All those things can be done on the multifamily zoning except for the trash dumpster. They are non-conforming from the beginning. They are still non-conforming. Changing to PD is just a way to cover up the wrong. It doesn't make it better for anyone. It doesn't make it safer for anyone. According to section 9.1A, PD shall not be sought primarily to avoid the standards and requirements of zoning. And I don't know if you can see it from here. This is what I was referring to as far when the vehicle went over the guardrail. Had it been in my area, it would have been a different story. Thank you. Sorry if I went on my time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Christina Husfeld.
Husfeld? Yeah, no I, that's okay. Christina Husfeld, 1411 Derby Drive. So at the P&Z meeting on July 25th, the developer stated that they are legally non-conforming, which is not true. If this was the case, then we would not be here today because a legally non-conforming property can be sold. We are here because the developers are requesting a zone change to planned development in which the city continues to state that it will assist in addressing zoning nonconformities. Per UDC 9.1, a PD shall not be sought primarily to avoid the standards and requirements of other zoning districts, such as multifamily. This is exactly what's happening. The City of Kennedale is not holding the developers accountable to the city code, therefore we are asking our city council to. There are numerous examples of the city staff not following city code. Nathan Gonzalez stated at the P&Z meeting on September 26 that his take on the code is that he wouldn't even consider the retaining wall a nonconformity. The code clearly states that no retaining wall should be taller than 5 foot, and their wall is more than 10 foot. Since the city will not uphold the UDC, we are asking the city council to. Nathan Gonzalez also stated that the non-conforming density of Alta Landing is due to the change from 16 units per acre to 8. Alta Landing has 27 units per acre, almost twice the amount initially allowed by the UDC. Alta Landing density has never been conforming, even before the density changed. Either our city staff is incompetent or they are willing to say whatever they can to get what they want. Both of these are extremely dangerous to the citizens of Kennedale. Our city staff needs to be held accountable. Here's a quick list of the non-conforming items that a layman such as myself has found regarding Alta Landing. Density and the retaining wall, as already mentioned, which the city is making excuses for. UDC section 3.3, minimum square foot for 1 bedrooms is 800 square foot. Alta Landing built 723 square foot 1 bedrooms. Section 12.8 requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit and 1 guest parking for every 4 units. Alta Landing has 396 parking spaces, yet UDC requires 607. 12.8 also states parking spaces must be enclosed or covered, which they are not. Section 13.9 states planting area width should be at least 5 foot, yet theirs are less than 4 foot in some areas. Section 10.7 states all fences shall be erected with fence posts and supports on interior side. In an email, the city manager stated that he told the developers to do it the wrong way. The city picks and chooses what they want to do and runs Kennedale like the Wild West. Almost 32% of the surrounding neighbors have protested against this change and are requesting that the city council listen to the citizens and follow the city ordinances. We are asking our city council members to be the sheriffs that Kennedale so badly needs and to clean up the city staff and start holding them accountable. We request that this zoning be denied per City Ordinance 9.1. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jason Husfield.
Jason Husfeld, 1411 Derby Drive. Basically the same thing. To kind of piggyback on what Jonathan said, we kind of all know what guidelines are and aren't being followed. We had met with the developers, even at the apartment complex, had a whole list of things that they had basically agreed to do. Last meeting I came to, finances came up, and now they don't have the finances to do it. So at least to me, knowing nothing about this, that appeared to be their out. So now not follow up with those things. Seems like such a simple thing to do. So if we could just all get together and figure this out. Y'all, if y'all could at least do some research on this company, they've been around for quite a while. They're in the hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. So before y'all make a decision to, pass it, hopefully you will decline it and then just basically see that they have more than enough means to take care of the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a couple of clarifications. Todd March, right? Are you with the applicant? Are you wanting to speak in the public section or with the applicant? Okay. And then, is there a Todd with you guys as well? Just 1 second. Are you with the applicant as well?
Yeah, but I'll speak in support of
You signed up to speak during this section. Would you like to? Okay.
Reset or? Great, thank you very much. My name is Todd Etter. I'm the partners with Wood, the developer on this. I actually oversee our national program, what's from coast to coast. And one of the things that I'd like to say is from our standpoint, and we invest in properties across the United States, Wood Partners is one that we've had a long history with. One of the things that we like about them is their quality of work and their attention to detail. I will say that I've been doing this for over 30 years on both the investment side and development side. This is probably the first time I've ever been in a situation like this where it was built and yet the zoning was non-compliant from day one. So we are very supportive of the ordinance that's in front of you tonight. And in addition to that, I'm very supportive of working with the developer and making sure the items get done in a timely fashion upon the approval of such ordinance. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Havaldi.
Johnny Valley, 418 Coker Valley Drive, Kennedale, Texas, 76060. There's a lot of confusion here. And a public hearing with action as necessary. That kind of throws me up. Action necessary, what action necessary for what? It's a very vague political statement, title there. That's one issue. Another issue, it's done non-conforming. And it's interesting that we citizens have to dig up the codes and bring it to the city council. Isn't there a code enforcement person that would say, let me splash the codes on the screen and explain it to you? I have to listen to Cindy and the gentleman from my steeplechase. It's like asking a doctor, can you fix my car? But I'm not going to talk to you about it. All right, so I see a major crisis there. The next point is trying to remedy this. It's done non-conforming, as that gentleman pointed out. Now, somebody's got to take the beating on that. But taking the beating on that non-conformity also requires us citizens there. Like I said earlier, there were 5 gunshots that was heard, and my wife heard it. She was upstairs. I was at Kroger. What's going on? So the city council, are they caught between a rock and a stone? If they are, then sit down with everybody. And somebody suggested that, including Mr. Nathan, because I talked to him personally for an hour or so. Let's sit down and hash this out. There's rumors of all types. Do we function on rumors? The political system has enough rumors going on around. Why in this little city? I don't understand that. So one rumor that's going on is financial. The other rumor is we can't fix it, and whatever. This issue of rumors need to stop. And the desk is there with the mayor and your city council. No rumors anymore. Sit down and get the facts straight, including the investors. Everyone wants to put their cart first before the horse. Nobody is concerned. Oh, mine goes first deal, my deal first. What are y'all doing? What's everybody doing? Clashing. Is that the way America is run? We talk about unity. We talk about all these great principles. Lord have mercy, God help us. But when it comes to practice, it's a clash. Can the clash stop? Everybody sit together and come. So a decision here, public hearings with action as necessary, it needs to just stay until it is resolved. I don't see a public action on it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Mayor, there are a few that did not want to speak, but they wish to register their opinions. I'm going to read those into the record. Maxwell Lindsay, 1411 Derby Drive, opposes the zoning change. Roy Stott at 1260 Elmbrook Drive also opposes the zoning change. Garrison Lewis at 1312 Tucker Lane opposes the zoning change. And Lynn Fuller at 512 Steeplechase Trail also opposes the zoning change. That's all I have.
Any other public comments? All right, so at this time, it is 7:05. I'm going to close the public hearing. And we're going to move on to item 2, take action on an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code as described in zoning case number 24-10, a proposed zoning change request from multifamily district to planned development for approximately 10.2722 acres for Block 1, Lot 2R1 of the Vaquero Coker Addition located at 3100 Joplin Road, City of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas, known as Alta Landing. And at this, I will open up the floor for our council. Oh, certainly, sorry. Go ahead.
I have a presentation if you'd let me call it up.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Can you guys see that? Or are you seeing the? Okay, great. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dallas Cothram, 2201 Main Street, Dallas, Texas, representing Wood Partners in Alta Landing. So I've probably worked in 200 or more jurisdictions, and I agree, like the equity partner in the deal, I haven't had one of these. And so, you know, and this is super complicated and really requires people with a lot of expertise in zoning that do it every day, and does involve lenders and investors and city attorneys. And so I absolutely understand the frustration of the neighbors. You know, they live there. They're going to continue to live there. And you know, we're here seeking solution or a remedy to an existing problem. And in that regard, that's what council in the process is elected to. So, you know, in an effort to own up to our own mistakes, and maybe they were shared by others too, but we're in this situation. We've come up with a planned development district that asks us to have more requirements than your current code. It asks us to make improvements beyond what the code would require. We just have to have an opportunity to do that. And the PD enforces on us that we must do those things. So, you know, I think one of the great things about planned development districts is it's a social compact between the city, the property owner, and
the residents, and the city's the one that's going to referee this thing. And it doesn't matter if we own it or the next person owns it. Those rules will be in there, and it's much easier really to understand for code enforcement or a neighbor or a lender to know in a PD, here are all the rules within the PD. And the city attorney has drafted this, and we've agreed to it. So all the conditions are what the neighbors suggested. It's a matter of what the trigger is to do it. I understand their frustration about you should do them already. You should have already done that. Well, we've got a non-conforming asset, and it requires us to pay for these. And we don't have any, our construction loan is ended. Construction's over. We got a certificate of occupancy. And that may seem like an excuse, but the guardrail alone we put in was $100,000. Now, we found that out of operating, but these are hundreds of thousands of dollars of improvements that we've agreed to. I think the Plan Commission had a good idea of that we now have a time limit of when they all have to commence and when they have to be completed. So every time somebody is asked of us, will you do these things, we've said yes. So, you know, we're a land of ordinances and laws, and we're happy to be enforced under the rules of the PD. I know some citizens somehow don't trust that process. I can't help with that. I just know in my career of having done this in a lot of places, that's how this works, is, you know, cities pass ordinances and can enforce them. You know, I think this is a very well written and understandable. So we're asking for you to help us solve a problem. So I've got, how do I move forward here? The arrows. Okay. So, you know, I think good planning is a lot like driving a car. That in this instance, the solution's on the horizon, and there definitely are problems. And problems are in the rearview mirror here. If you drive your car only looking into the rearview mirror, it's going to be really hard to drive that. And so, yes, there were problems, but the PD provides solutions to those problems. Okay, a little about Wood Partners. So my client, Todd McCulloch and Ryan Miller, it's very unusual in working for multifamily developers to have clients that I've worked for more than 20 years that are at the same company. When the Hunt family built Rosewood Court, they could have picked any partner in America to build with them and do a high rise, and they picked Wood Partners. And I don't know what the money was. They didn't pay more. They picked them because they are one of the country's leading multifamily developers, and they've delivered here. Every project we've worked on for them has been successful, and they're in a wide range of things. Here's a high rise. They've done transit oriented. Here we have a project that's your city's highest taxed entity at more than right at $50 million. So, you know, here too that we worked on before there was a design district, that was just called the stuff on the other side of Stemmons. Their two projects really framed that and made it a residential district. They've sold those, they've performed really well. Okay, you know, multifamily goes up in value, and cities can typically rely on that. I'm going to talk later about making this an ongoing non-conforming asset where we don't have appropriate zoning creates a situation where you know, our construction loan, our existing loan will run out. We are going to reach a situation where it's very difficult, and we're going to have to find another kind of buyer that is not, you know, probably a Class A institutional buyer. We've asked a third party, Mr. Matrasani, to come and talk about, you know, what that looks like, and I've done some slides. So I'm not going to read all these. I'm sure you've read your ordinance about all the things we've agreed to do. We've agreed to do all these, and now we're on a clock, and we must come back to the council to show you that all those things are done. They have to be inspected, like the retaining wall. There's no requirement in the ordinance that that retaining wall ever be inspected. We've agreed to annual inspections of that in the future that we'd have to provide in a timely manner. Fine, we're happy to do that. I hope that'd give the neighbors some peace that, you know, it's structurally sound. You know, here, you know, continuing on with the list, we've also, if you look at that kind of the third to the bottom one, we've set up a replacement tree fund. So the people that are adjacent to us, if they provide receipts, we'll provide $1,200 for them to reimburse trees they might purchase. Some already have. So that's an effort to, yes, we are taller and we're more dense than maybe should have been permitted and should have gotten a CO for, but we're here now, and we're trying to find solutions that will work for how can we mitigate some of that additional height that maybe shouldn't have been permitted. You know, we permit, the set of plans that was permitted is what we built and what was executed and what was inspected and what a CO was granted for. So we're here. We hope all of these things that we're now going to be required to do if the ordinance passes will, you know, do some to mollify or assuage neighbors about these things. So there's the tree fund. Those homes would be eligible for the up to $1,200 for that. Okay. This project turned out much better than the pro forma. You know, it skews older than maybe we would have thought. And I think the net of these numbers, you've gained a lot of citizens, maybe, you know, surprisingly a lot from East Texas and Dallas County. And importantly, they are people that can afford to buy homes for you. So when we work for cities, which happens regularly on economic development or other assignments, when you can capture those people that are moving into North Texas, that's good for you. They're more likely to stay and send their kids to school, go to church here, make friends. And here, we'll show a slide in a minute about what they are. But, you know, there are annual incomes. So our one-bedroom renters, $7,500 annual, two-bedroom, et cetera. So, you know, there's a pretty, you know, and if you look at that number, 30% of these people, of the renters, are over 150,000, 15% are over 200,000. So these are people that are renters by choice. We've seen this all over the Metroplex, that people move here maybe from Tyler or Nacogdoches or wherever, and they aren't sure where they're going to buy. In this instance, they've settled in your city already. Okay, so I did a slide about what is the economic impact of this, and we can go back to this. I try to dumb these down or put them into human terms. You know, our appraised value is about $50 million, and so it generates $350,000 for the city and $563 million for the school district, which equates to 10 teachers' salaries or 6 police officers' salary is the net at the $50 million number. So we're your largest taxpayer according to city staff at this point. So if we compare that median home values, the census number of 336,000, if you look at that, and this is true everywhere, multifamily pays a disproportionate amount of taxes on a per acre basis, as it should. And that's what helps you fund all of these programs, whether it's replacing lead pipes or offering tax freezes to seniors and the disabled. I mean, it's, you know, commercial property owners should carry a higher burden than your single family people do. So I bring all this up, you know, and this is kind of the result. You know, our equivalency is about 107 homes is what our units equate in terms of taxable value. By rendering us, and I did a couple of models, I think this is way too low. If we end up being non-conforming and go to market, you know, I would expect where you would see that our selling value is half or somewhere between 40 and 50% reduction. You know, and I think you'll hear from Mr. Marchesani that if you go to market with something, you can't get conventional loans on this. People will not buy a non-conforming asset. That's going to be in, you know, bold headlines like, how about them Cowboys? You know, it's just going to scream that there is a problem here, and you don't get institutional investors. You will get a different class of investors, not like the A class of investors that have done this project. So, you know, the result of that is, let's say you lose 38.5%, you lose about 4 teachers or 2 police officers. Now, you know, so you've lost 17.5 homes is what would be the equivalent of that. This is where I personally think you end up based on my, I guess, 30 years of experience and this is a little low, I think it may be more like 45, but let's say it's 42.5%. The city's going to lose $145,000 in that model each year, and the school district loses, you know, $240,000. So that's 4 teachers or 2.5 police officers, or 22 houses. So, that's what we're talking about. Now, on the opposite side of that, we're willing to make several $100,000 of improvements that would be permitted and taxable. So you would think our 50 million would be a larger investment, the kind of thing that is attractive to institutional buyers and able to be refinanced. So that's what it's not that we're not willing to make the improvements. We're not only willing, we're requiring it of ourselves in the PD to make every one of those, and it's on a clock. So we're not asking, we're requiring of ourselves and entering into that social compact where we must do those things. And the incentive for us to do that is to reach the solution. We need to have conforming zoning. For us to move forward with, the thing. So that's why, I really mean this. We need help on this. I'm going to take a minute to just go over what some of the, people said that, we cannot make all these improvements and be conforming under your multifamily code. We can't simply ask for multifamily zoning. We'd still be too tall and we'd still be too dense and we would still have setback issues. A PD remedies those things. And if you look at all the exhibits, there's a site plan, exhibit. There's a landscape plan exhibit. We have to conform to those things, not just now, but forever. So that's there's safety for the neighbors too in understanding that we must conform at all times. So the first speaker that talked about, you can do all this in multifamily. We can't do that. If we could, I would have just come in and said, well, we want to do a multifamily request. We already have multifamily zoning. We can't meet those standards. We can't cut a story off of the apartments. That's just not possible. It was also said that we'd be, if we made the improvements, we would be conforming. We wouldn't be. I do understand what they mean by it is that we would be meeting their expectations. And we want to meet their expectations, but that's not the same thing as having conforming zoning that we can go to market from, that we can ask staff for a zoning determination letter, and that we would get it and be able to show someone would close on this asset. So those may seem like, I don't know, silly nuances, but that's how 50 million or more dollar assets are, close. It's not any different than someone buying a home. It's much harder to buy a home that's in a flood zone or has non-conforming zoning. It doesn't make any difference. So, the carport thing that was brought up, we're not doing carports. We heard that people didn't want it, and we took it out of that. I do believe we're legally non-conforming. We have a CO. We paid a fee. We turned in an application. We met all the inspections and a CO was issued. It shouldn't have been. And we're not here to say we're not part of the fault. Perhaps we should have realized it, but that's typically the process that you follow with cities, is you turn it in. If the city had told us no, we would have remedied it. But we're here to be part of the solution of, we recognize that it's non-conforming. We're going to do all this list of 17 items or more, and in a timely fashion. But, we just can't get there. And like when somebody says it's a simple thing to do, it is simple to do all those things. And my client and the equity partners are ready to do it right now. Like, we will start immediately on making progress on getting those things done. I think that'll go a long way to maybe reassuring confidence. But, the one comment about somebody's got to take the beating on this, maybe I'll close with this, that everyone would take the beating on it. That's where we are. Just like the PD, everyone, all of us share the same problem. And that's where the PD is the solution. If this is defeated, we have a non-conforming asset that we'll go to market with, and I guess it will teach us a lesson. But they're going to go on and do more projects in other places. That's what merchant builders do. But the city will lose, many millions of dollars of taxable value, and the residents won't have those improvements made. So I would posit that that's not a good outcome. I know that it feels good to it seems like we're getting our way, and I do see that, but we're also paying a toll to get there by meeting all of their standards. If we had been able to meet all those or have a funding mechanism to do them, we would have. The other problem is we could not get a building permit for many of those things because they're not on the site plan that got passed in the zoning case. They were not the applicant. Remember, they brought this deal from someone else. So many of these things that are on the list are also not things that we can get a building permit for. So that's a kind of a catch-22 that I can understand citizens don't like, but there are a lot of intricacies in zoning that are unpleasant that I think in this instance, we can find a solution for through a PD. So thank you. I know that's a lengthy presentation, but this is a huge decision for my client and really even for me personally. I've never had one of these. My colleague Carl Crawley and I have worked here together for 25 years and done hundreds of cases, and we just haven't had one of these. We have tried to come up with something where everybody ends up a winner, and hopefully with better feelings after we get that checklist done. And if we don't, then we don't have a conforming asset. That's what the trust is. The last thing I'll say is, I had thrown out as a solution at one point, and I've done this in some cities, people pass the zoning and hold the ordinance until all the improvements are made. They're not typically as many as in this one, but we're open to that because we know we're going to perform. If we didn't think we were going to perform, that would not be good to us, but we do need time to do them. We also need our lenders to have assurance that they're going to get the zoning to make it a conforming asset. So thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Questions?
Do you want somebody else to speak on behalf of the applicant first, or do you want to?
Todd, do you want to come up and talk for a minute?
Your call, or however you want.
No, this is fine. I mean, Mr. Marchesani, we wanted to have a third party sort of validate the work Carl and I did about the discounting beyond, and he's an experienced multifamily developer.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. Todd Marchesani from Dallas, Texas. I was asked to be an expert witness here, just giving my opinion on the case, and I guess the sort of the downside of what could happen if this PD is not approved. So obviously unfortunate situation. This is going to be the first of everyone's career, and it probably never will happen again. I think y'all should appreciate that Wood Partners is one of the better developers in town, and certainly they're going to do what they say they're going to do. I was at the P&Z hearing. I thought it was very constructive in terms of collaboration and coming up with solutions to be in that proposed PD. So I think that's one of the reasons why they recommended moving forward and the vote here today. In my opinion, there's only downside risk if the PD is not approved. From my perspective as a developer, also as an owner, it would be really hard for me to recommend a purchase of this asset as a non-conforming use. There are potential groups that would purchase an asset like this, but they would typically require a higher return. Those potential buyers are not as I wouldn't consider them institutional operators like Wood Partners. So what I would think might happen is if Wood couldn't sell the buildings, they could either be foreclosed on, which could lead to a loss of NOI, which would then lead to a reduction in management, which could lead to tenants wanting to vacate. So there was a lot of really good demographics on that chart. But if all those tenants feel like the property is not being operated properly, they're all going to leave and look for other options, which further deteriorates the asset. So in my opinion, I would be in support of the PD and what they're putting together. I have no economic interest here. I'm just providing a separate opinion. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Nathan, do you want to go ahead, or questions at this time?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So it's Just got a few words here, I'll keep it short. It's not often that a community, a staff and city council get an opportunity to correct a few mistakes of the past. It's quite rare, in fact. In my career, it's, can't think of any time this issue has ever come up, but tonight, each of you have that opportunity. The words of the country singer Cody Johnson, if you have a chance, take it. Take it while you have the chance. I love that song. And this body, you are all well familiar now with the history that brings us here tonight. And I know it's human nature to want to assign blame. The community, they'll point the finger at the developer in the city, and the city and the developer each have a point to make, I'm sure. But tonight, I don't want to do any of that with the staff report. What I'm asking all parties to do is point the finger at me. I'd prefer you to use your index finger, but I'm sure there's some here that would use a different finger. But this is what I'm asking you to do, and that's the reason why is that I'm the one that's been tasked with finding a solution to this problem. In fact, I first heard of this Alta Landing during my interview here. And if I knew what I know now, I'd have asked a little bit more questions during that interview. But nonetheless, my second day here was spent walking the property, got to know the ins and outs, talked with consultants, talked with the developers, representatives, city staff that was here for some history, and more importantly, I talked with residents. I continue to talk with residents, those willing to. And since then, you know, including this staff, including the city manager, we have worked to find a solution to this situation. And the intent here is, again, to improve the quality of life for folks on this part of town, including those that live at Alta Landing. In this PD ordinance, I think we've done that. So I think we've done that. And I'm grateful to the team at Wood Partners for their commitment, cooperation, staying true to their word. It's not often that in my world I see developers that are willing to partner with the city and a community to this extent. Certainly has not been my experience, but I'm grateful for this particular opportunity. I'd like to highlight a couple concerns raised by the community and solutions that this noted in this PD. So we know that the residents have complained about noise and from the trash pickups. And so this ordinance requires the developer to relocate that dumpster to the front of the property, away from the neighboring property line. So in the current district, this would not be a requirement. In fact, we actually encourage people to tuck the dumpster enclosure in the back. We don't want to see it from the street. Part of the planned development, it would require them to move the dumpster away from the property line, and the residents that I have spoken with were happy to hear that. Again, there's a difference between what you can do and what's required of you, correct? So today, the dumpsters are compliant as with the zoning where they're at, but we would like them moved to the new proposed location. Residents have also noted their unhappiness with apartment buildings looking down on their property. And I get that, I understand that. The buildings are set back from the property line appropriately. So setbacks pertain to the principal structure, not necessarily fences or retaining walls. When we look at reviews for setbacks, we're looking at the principal structure. These buildings are set back properly, but we can still understand the concern that folks have. So to resolve this particular issue raised by the community, we've asked for additional screening, and we're requiring additional screening. And so this would raise the 6-foot fence that is the minimum. It would require a minimum now of 8 feet. We've also asked that the landscaping be improved. That's been done. In fact, the property line has been peppered with trees to improve additional screening. Additionally, the ordinance would set in place an adopted site plan, noting the requirement of a guardrail that has already been installed, like we've heard tonight. Currently, there is no requirement to install or maintain a guardrail in the city's development code for parking lots. In fact, this would be the first ordinance in the city that I'm aware of that has a guardrail on the site plan. So lastly, the ordinance sets a specific time frame to begin and to complete all site improvements. So with that, I do recommend that the city council pass this ordinance. In doing so, it would allow staff to require these additional site improvements. And I think we'll begin the process of improving the quality of life for residents on this side of town. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from council.
Before I open the floor, I wanted to just take a moment for the record and confirm, Mr. City Manager, just to confirm on this issue before it goes to a vote for the council, it has met the requirements of the protest, and it will require a supermajority vote by the council to pass.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just wanted to put that for the record. And at this time, we'll open the floor for questions, and I think the applicants are available as well.
I got one more comment.
Yes, sir, certainly.
Is it possible that we can convene into executive session to discuss with our city attorney?
Would somebody make a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion to go to executive session and to confer with the city attorney.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? And all opposed? All right, the motion passes 4-1 to go into executive session pursuant to section 551.0171. We're going to reconvene, or we're going to convene into executive session at 7:34 p.m. Excuse me, for the record, let me update the code section pursuant to section 551.071. We're going to go into executive session at 7:34 p.m. for consultation with the city attorney. Thank you.